Actually, some pretty good local options starting to appear now with all the cold weather we've had. John, as you know, I've been going up north because I live to ice fish. So, if there's ice, I'm going to travel, 2-3 hours. I don't care. I'll make the drive. But anyways, I'm just going to start out with all the basics, just so I don't insult anybody's intelligence or whatever. Starting out with safety. Obviously, safety first. Just because you see people out on the ice does not mean it's safe. Quick story, my son was out on Winchester Lake, him and his friend, about 3 weeks ago. And there was a bunch of people ice fishing, but they've got all the proper safety gear that I'll go over. And some people came out and started ice skating. And he was watching them, and he knew what was going to happen, and it happened. The lady went right through, completely through the ice in 11 feet of water. I don't know if anybody's tried to tread water with ice skates before. I can't imagine it's very easy. But my son and his friend and one other guy that happened to see the lady go down, they all went out, and they managed to get her out of the water and get her back to her car so that she could get warmed up. So a pretty scary situation. Nobody should have to be in that. But some of the things that I'm going to tell you about, hopefully, will prevent that. So first of all, obviously you need to know how thick the ice is. And I've been doing this for the better part of 30 some years. So you get to a point where you know how to read the ice. Kind of like you guys probably know how to read the water, in a stream or whatever, and know where the fish might be holding type thing. But we also use what we call as a spud bar. All right. And this is a homemade one that a friend of mine made when I was 17 years old. And I've had it ever since. But obviously you can buy them at Cabela's and stuff like that. So it's got a sharp edge on the, a little chisel type blade on the end. And you literally slam it into the ice. And if you can get 2 or 3 good hits on the ice, you can proceed. You should be checking as you go until you get a good idea of what the ice is, that you're fishing. Someone that doesn't do a lot of ice fishing, you're going to want at least 4 inches of good black ice. I fish on stuff that's a little bit less than that, but again, I kind of know what I'm looking for, and I've got all the safety gear. But the spud is the one thing that a lot of people don't take with them. They just walk out onto the ice and hope for the best. Second is, you see here, I don't know, I'm not much into the Zoom meetings, so I don't know if you guys can see all that real good.
That's good.
But these are spikes, very sharp spikes. And what this is for is if you do end up going in, now you've got something that you can jam onto the ice and either pull yourself out or at least hold yourself there until someone can get to you and assist you. A very, very important piece of equipment that costs about $6 or something like that, $8, I don't even know. But yeah, definitely you don't want to leave, you don't want to get out on the ice without something like this.
And those will help you catch if you're going through, you can catch where it hasn't broken yet.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a very inexpensive piece of equipment, and it saves tons of lives, I'm sure. So now once you know the ice is safe, what's that?
I was just going to say to them that after I met Jinx and talked ice fishing with him and saw those, I literally went out that weekend, and everybody in my family who ice fishes got those as a stocking stuffer at Christmas.
That's an excellent idea, really, because like I say, they're under $10 or maybe around $10, but in the grand scheme of things, they're priceless.
Yeah.
Also, obviously, going out in the cold, you're going to want to layer your clothing. You want moisture wicking type material so that you don't sweat. That's the biggest thing that's it's going to get you cold, possibly hypothermic in an extreme event, and it's just going to ruin your day. So if you're warm and dry, you can fish, all day and be nice and comfortable, and it just makes it a much more enjoyable experience. On top of that, what I wear our outside suits that we wear, you know, basically like a snowsuit, but it's got built-in flotation. So I have a pair of bibs, and then I have a pair of my jacket, and both of them have flotation built in. So if I go through the ice, I'm going to get cold, but that's about it, because I'm going to float. And you cannot sink with those. Trust me, you cannot sink. You will lay flat on the water almost. It's amazing.
Is that a passive device, or do you need to activate it?
Nope, it's just built right in. It's not Coast Guard approved as a personal flotation device. However, it floats. You can go on to Clam Outdoors website, and they've got some videos where they've got a guy that jumps in the water with one on, and you can see, you know, how buoyant they are. Different companies make them now, so you know, depending on your price point and you know your devotion to a certain company or whatever the case may be, there's something out there for everybody. But they keep you warm, and they keep you afloat if you happen to be unfortunate enough to go through the water. Through the ice. Let's see. One thing that people overlook a lot of times on their boots is creepers. So if you can see these big spikes, and I'm just as guilty. And I was fishing in a tournament up in Vermont one day, and I was too lazy to put them on. It was raining. It was nasty. We were basically staying inside our shacks all day, and I was just flat ass too lazy to put them on. And I came out of my shack, and there was water all over the ice, no snow, no nothing. And my feet came out from underneath me, and my head hit the ice so hard, I don't even want to tell you. It's just, trust me, I wear them from now on. It's, again, they're not very expensive, but they're worth every single penny. If you ever take a fall like that, trust me, you will know. That's pretty much it. The reason that my son was able to get the lady out was because they had a rope with them. They had like a 20-foot rope with them. And I've got an actual safety rope that comes in a bag, and I think my son has it in his car because I just looked for it and I can't find it. But anyways, it's in a bag, and usually what I'll do is I'll clip it onto my suit, and I'll stick it in one of the pockets. So it's always on my body. And then in the event that I go through, I can either throw it out to somebody so they can pull me out, or if somebody else goes through, I can throw it to them so that we can get them out. But a lot of guys will put a nice long rope on their shanties that they pull out. That works. I've got one on my sled that's probably about 15 or 18 feet long, and it's just two quick connect hooks that clip onto my sled. So in the event that I need that rope, I can just unclip it, and I've got that as well. You can't have too much safety equipment with you. The other thing you need to remember is just because the ice is, say, 5 inches in one spot, doesn't mean it's that all over the place. You know, there's underwater springs that can create a weak spot. There are weeds that get frozen in the ice, and the sun will weaken that particular area. My son, again, we were fishing a few years back on Candlewood, and we had 6-7 inches of ice, and we were out there for an hour and a half walking all over this big area. And there was one little spot that was a little bit darker, and it looked like there was some weeds, and he decided to walk over there, and down he went. And he had his float suit on, and I'm pretty sure he bounced out of the water. He went in and was out before I could even stand up off my bucket. But he was wet. But again, we had the safety equipment on. But there was 7 inches of ice everywhere we were fishing all day. And there was just that one little spot, and he found it. So you just got to be real careful. Definitely should fish with a partner. Shouldn't go alone, just obviously, in case something happens. And the other thing, too, is leave some sort of a plan with your wife or, whoever. Let someone know where you're going, how long you're going to be out there, when you plan on being off the ice. It's a good idea to make a call, when you do get off the ice. Hey, I'm off the ice. I'm packing up the truck. I'm heading home. There was one night I was fishing in a spot in New Milford, and I didn't have any phone service. And just before dark, the crappie started and turned on fire, and we were just pounding them. So of course we stayed. You know, I have a light in my shack. I've got a flip over shack. Unfortunately, I can't show you that because it won't fit in here. But anyways, it's like a sled that I put all my stuff in, and it's got a big canvas thing. You flip it over so you're nice and warm inside. I had a light bar in there. I was good to stay there all night. So we stayed about an hour and a half over, you know, past dark. And when I got in my truck and I drove down the road a little ways and I got to service, my phone started blowing up. And my family was looking for me. They had no idea, you know, what I was doing, and they thought I'd gone through. They didn't even know where to look for me. So, you know, leave some sort of a plan with someone, and just let them know, you know, what you're doing. It does make a big difference. Any questions on like safety and just basically checking the ice type thing? All right, let's get on to equipment. So let's see, how do we start out here? I've got like 4 different sets of rods and reels. I'm a fanatic. I take probably a dozen or more rods with me, you know, every time. They all have their purpose. You know, they all have a place and a application. Obviously, ice fishing rods. This is a 28-inch rod. Ice fishing rods are anywhere from 18 to 36 inches long, you know, and everything in between. Obviously, all sorts of different actions, light, medium, you know, heavy, ultra light, that type thing. This particular rod has trying to see here. I don't know if you guys can see this, or maybe right there. This has got, it's got a really the tip is really light, so you can detect the bites, but then the backbone you can see is real heavy. All right, so you can detect really, really light bites, all right, with this, but you can fight a good fish with it. You know, if you get a bass or you get a pike or something like that, you've got the backbone to do it. This particular reel is obviously a lot like what you guys use. It's an inline, what they just call an inline reel. Some guys actually do use, you know, some kinds of fly reels and stuff like that, but the advantage of this particular reel is the line comes straight off it and comes straight back on it again. And what that does is it eliminates your jig from sitting down. Let me see if I can show you this. You see the jig there. What'll happen with spinning rods sometimes is this thing will just sit there and spin. And when it's spinning, the fish don't particularly care for it too much. So this particular reel eliminates that. Applications for this are less than 20 feet of water, because you don't just open up a bail like you do on a spinning reel and let the lure down. You have to physically pull the line out of the, you know, out of the end. And then, so if you're in deep water, that gets to be a little bit of a pain. A lot of times.
How does the reel prevent the jig from spinning?
It's just because that the line comes straight off and straight back on, so there's no twist in the line.
Okay.
As opposed to like a spinning reel, like this regular spinning reel. All right, that puts a certain amount of line twist in your line, and when you're not moving your jig, you'll watch it. It'll just sit there and it can sit there and spin. So these tend to eliminate a lot of that. And then, of course, obviously, you've got the, you know, regular spinning type reel. This particular one, it's got a spring bobber on the end of it. So what you do is you set this up so that your jig keeps at about halfway. So you can see if a fish lightly bites it. It's not enough to move the rod so much, but it's enough to move that little tip. And then crappies especially will come up on a jig. So a lot of times, you know, if you got it set up right, you can actually see that. I can't really do it here, but you can see that jig come up. You can see this tip come up, and you might get a little slack in your line, and you know, that's when you've got a fish down there. We're just using little tungsten. I don't know how I can do this here. Little tungsten jig and a little soft plastic, That's one of the ones that I've been making. And you just do that, or we use spikes, maggots, mealworms, stuff like that for bait. Live minnows, small minnows, that type stuff. A little bit different setup is what they call a schoolie reel. And the advantage of this, again, the line comes straight off the reel, so it eliminates the line twist. But the way this is, it's almost like an extension of your arm, and you have a lot more control of the jig and what you're doing with this style setup. It's nothing for deep water because you're really not reeling in, in or whatever. This would be like under 10 feet of water probably. But a lot of the tournament guys use these. I just started playing around with these. And I've caught some decent fish and stuff. But again, it's just a different style lure. Sorry, rod and reel. Again, just a different style of jig. Tungsten again. Tungsten obviously is heavier than lead. And so you can get away with a much smaller jig that's the same weight. So in other words, say a 16th ounce lead jig compared to a 16th ounce tungsten jig. The tungsten is a lot smaller, but still the same weight. So you can still get down there into the water column, but it's a lot smaller profile. And a lot of times, that can be the difference between getting a bite or not. And then if you want to go really crazy, like the guys on the world fishing team that go all over the country and fish, they make this what they call a palm rod.
What is
this thing is very small, and again, you're fishing micro jigs. But these guys are over in Lithuania or wherever the hell they're out, over there fishing. And they're fishing for little teeny tiny, they're actually fishing for like minnows a lot of times. That's what a lot of they have over there. So you end up catching you get a good crappie or a bluegill or something like that on one of these, and you're in for a little bit of a treat. But it's got an adjustable, let's see if we can see that. It's got an adjustable, sort of like a little spring bobber, depending on the size of the jig that you're using. You can bring it in, you can bring it halfway, you can bring it all the way out, like that. All right, so you can detect. What's that?
How much line is that holding?
Not very much. Not very much.
Do you bring all these different types with you, or is it some lakes or ponds you're going to use one type and then others for another type?
I bring more stuff than all of you put together would probably ever use. My shack's like a bass boat on the ice. I've got everything. It tends to get a little heavy lugging it around, but I'm just kind of a fanatic that way. I fish a lot of tournaments, we did until this year. Obviously, this year we couldn't do the tournament trail up in Vermont like we have been. So I just, if something breaks, I can grab another one, real quick. I don't have to like spend time and retie. I can just grab another rod and boom, I can get right down there. A lot of times, like especially perch, they're notorious for just cruising and they just don't stop. So if you turn around and get them to stop at your hole and you catch one, if you don't get right back down there, they're going to lose interest real quick and they're going to take off. So, if I have something I can just grab real quick and just drop right back down there, then, I've got all that set up. We had a tournament up in Vermont last year, and one of the categories was the smallest fish. And I won it with this rod. I won it. I caught a bluegill that was, I believe, 18 grams. It was tiny. It was this big. It was like 2 inches long, if that. But I won like $400, so it was worth it. Again, you don't have to go crazy like that. 1 or 2 different rods, just a couple of different styles. Obviously, if you're fishing for bass or pike, you can use you know, a heavier rod. I fish for panfish mostly, and I still catch you know, big fish on the small rods from time to time. I've got a 36-inch rod that I'll use when I'm outside of my shack and I'm standing up, so I don't have to bend over, and I can have the rod tip right down by the ice. And then if I pick it up, I can fish about 8 feet of water without having to reel. So in a tournament situation, it's efficiency. So obviously, the more holes you fish, the more chances you're going to get, and you know, the better your odds are going to be.
Now you're fishing these tiny jigs.
Yeah.
Presentation wise, how much motion do you want to impart on that jig?
So generally, I don't stop moving it. But again, it depends on what the fish want. You kind of let them tell you what you want. I've got this one box here, all different shapes and sizes. I've got another box here, and another box there. So I try to have something for every situation if I can. Soft plastics, I've got this binder here, and these are just all the different soft plastics that I've bought. So for all sorts of different situations. Plus, now that I'm making my own, I'm like a Cabela's out on the ice.
Now, I noticed a lot of fluorescent, very bright colors on the jigs. I'm assuming that's by design.
Yeah. You know, obviously you want, you know, natural looking ones, darker colors, neutral colors, but of course, you know, the crappies especially like bright colors. Perch are notorious for liking reds and chartreuses and stuff like that. And then, you know, take water clarity into the equation. So once you factor all those different things in, that sort of helps you, you know, decide what you're, you know, what you're going to use. As far
What
as
does a typical setup cost? You know, if you were going to go out and buy a decent ice fishing setup.
a decent rod and reel, anywhere from 25 bucks to, you know, 65 bucks, 70 bucks for, you know, basically middle of the road. There's
Okay.
some cheaper stuff and they're garbage pretty much. I'm not going to lie. And then there's stuff that's 150 bucks or more, but you know, you don't need stuff like that. This particular setup right here, rod reel, you know, minus the line and stuff like that. I think this is like 69 bucks for this setup. And it's a great setup. But again, you can get into, you know, you can buy a rod and reel, you know, 25, 30 bucks, 40 bucks. So it's not too bad.
Is the on the handle for flotation?
No, there's no flotation. Nope. Nope. So yeah, if it goes down the hole, it's going down the hole. I guess I probably should have led off with how you actually make a hole in the first place. That would have been a pretty good. That probably would have been a pretty good idea.
Can I interrupt? Can I interrupt for a sec? You talked about 8 feet or 20 feet. Typically speaking, you're not going, like if you're in a 50, 60 foot, you're not going to go down that deep. What's the depth for most of the fish that you'll be catching?
So you've got two different areas that I look for. I'm going to start looking in the weeds, all right? And that's going to be the shallower area. You're going to be fishing anywhere from 3 to 8 to 12 feet of water. You know, typically around this area, weed lines end up, you know, dropping off around 12, 13 feet or so. So if you want to fish the edge of the weeds, you're looking for green weeds that we have underwater cameras and stuff that you can drop down and you can look and see if the weeds are green or if they're dead and brown and, you know, nasty looking. But typically I'm fishing 5 to 12 feet of water for most of my fishing, pretty much anywhere I go. However, Crappies are notorious to be out in the basin of the lake. So if you've got a lake that let's just say it's like a big bowl, in the middle of it is like 35, 40 feet of water. Those crappies can be in schools just cruising out there looking for minnows, but they might only be in 20 feet of water, so it really depends on the species of fish you're looking for. Perch, walleyes, they're going to hug the bottom a lot more. They don't usually suspend. Bluegills can do pretty much anything, be on the bottom or up suspended. Crappies, a lot of time, they can be rubbing their fins right across the bottom of the ice. They're up so high. So, I mean, you got to kind of fish the whole water column and take into consideration what species you're looking for.
Thank you.
As far as, like I said, drilling the hole, John can tell you about this because I showed him this and he went out and bought one. But this, I'm just using my good old DeWalt drill that I use, at work and stuff like that. And it mounts to this plate, and then you got a little handle here that activates the trigger on your drill. And then it goes, hooks up to this auger. And this is a cover, again, for safety. All right, because these blades are very, very sharp. I don't know if I can.
Oh, hurt yourself, please.
There we go. Yeah, these things are like razor blades. And let me tell you what, they will do a number on you.
So, Mike, you don't use your spud to cut the hole?
Hell no. Back in the day, yes, I used to be honest with you. But we didn't have all this neat stuff back then either.
I think I went to a True Value. I bought an $18 kids sled, one of those plastic sleds.
Yep.
Mounted a plastic milk crate on it, tied it on, and that's what I would walk out. I used to do a lot of fishing on the New York City reservoirs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from Canada, so it was Lake Simcoe for me.
Yeah, I used to go to Canada. I grew up on the St. Lawrence River.
Okay.
And I used to go over to Canada to fish walleyes, and back then, this spud that you see, that's what I used. And
I grew up using spuds.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it was 2 feet of friggin' ice. You didn't chop too many holes, trust me. You chopped up one hole and hope they could tell that the fish came through.
So let me just reinforce your safety statements there, because one of my little hobbies is I fly for the Coast Guard Auxiliary.
Oh, nice.
In the wintertime, we fly ice patrols around Lake Champlain.
Nice.
And in Missisquoi Bay is the border between Canada and the United States on Lake Champlain. It's the big bay that's just to the furthest east. And you can see where the border line is between the two countries, because on the Canadian side, there's an ice shack city of about 500 shacks
Yeah.
with roads, streets, roads all laid out in a grid pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's literally, you can see the line. On the American side, there are maybe 10 or 15 shacks, but we come up within a quarter of a mile of the Canadian border because it's a military flight. We can't enter Canadian airspace. But every couple of years, we'll see the snowmobile tracks that disappear into a hole on Lake Champlain because of what you said earlier. And that is these underground springs. Unless you really have local knowledge of the water, these underground springs can be in deep water as well. So, you could be out there thinking you're in 30 feet of water. And, every once in a while we lose a snowmobiler.
Yeah.
And, their body bobs up about 3 days later when the gases expand. And it's tragic, but we have one flight a week up there. And we make a note of the location of all of the clusters of ice huts and give it to the Coast Guard, local station there in Burlington. So if there's an event, they know latitude and longitude of these ice hut colonies on the American side.
Ron, I thought your voice sounded a little familiar.
Out and about?
Yeah. You remember me from Sunland?
Yeah. Hey, Mike.
That's me.
Okay. So here's the thing.
I just had to put you on the big screen so I could see. I says, that friggin' voice sounds familiar. Let me see who that is. Oh, it's
So-
Ron Moulton. Of course I know who the hell it is.
So Mike, I never got the shrink wrap off my boat this year. By the way,
Oh,
folks,
Jesus.
Mike is the mechanic who services my 75 horsepower motor on my boat, and who sold me a boat back in was it 2001
Oh, shit.
when he worked.
I
for
just
Fisher
remember
Marine.
the Honda motor that you bought, and we
Yep,
took it
still
out of the box right in front of you. Threw it
Still
up the
have it.
test tank, and on the second pull, it fired up and ran ever
Yep.
since.
Still,
Yep.
still have it on a 14-foot Alumacraft that you sold me. And then
Excellent.
I have the bigger boat that you service, the bigger motor, working for Brookfield Bay Marina.
Yeah.
So
I
you're
didn't
out
work
on your
there
own.
yet.
You're out on your own now. Sorry, folks. Are you
No,
out
no.
on your own now?
No, I still work part-time at Brookfield, just not a
Okay.
whole lot, but I work at Hartford Hospital full-time. I dispatch Lifestar and public safety and
Right. So where's your bait and tackle shop?
in my basement, in my garage.
Okay.
in
So
Torrington.
now I know where to go to get my supplies. Right.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Well, it's good talking to you, Ron.
Okay, Mike. Carry on.
So, obviously you got to know where the fish are and how deep the water is and all that neat stuff, which brings us into the electronics portion of everything. So this is what they call a flasher. All right, you got a transducer with a float. You put it in the water and it floats and shoots the beam straight down. And it won't show much on this, but you can kind of see when I turn it on. My other one had a demo mode, but this one doesn't. But anyways, it'll show you in real time how deep the water is. You can see the fish, you can see the weeds, you can see your jig, where that is. And after staring at that thing for a few thousand hours, you can actually tell the mood of the fish. And that might sound a little crazy, but I can look at a fish when it comes in on the screen, and I can almost tell if it's going to bite or not. It like I said, it takes a little bit of experience, but it's a very, very, very useful tool. This particular one has 7 different settings on the transducer, so I can literally have 7 different cone angles depending on the kind of water I'm fishing. So if I'm in an area where there's sparse little patches of weeds here and there, I can put a wide cone angle on it. I can see a lot more of what's going on. If I'm in an area where there's a lot of thick weeds, I can take that cone angle and bring it right down narrow, so I'm just shooting right straight down the hole, and it eliminates a lot of that clutter, and I can see what's directly below me. They make all sorts of different models, obviously, different manufacturers. This is made by Vexilar. I've been with Vexilar for quite a few years now, which is why I do the Cabela's and the Bass Pro Shops stuff during the winter. It's also the only reason I can afford to buy one of these things, because that particular one just came out this year, and it's right around $800. Now, obviously, the average person isn't going to go out and spend $800 on something like that. They do start around $250 and then anywhere in between. And then, of course, the different manufacturers, there's all sorts of types and models. There's regular fish finders like you would use on your boat that they've made for ice fishing. Some people like that particular style. They can interpret the information a little bit better. But to me, this particular model, again, once you play around with it a little bit, there's a lot of information that it can give you. And I can tell if they're little fish, if they're big fish, if they're active, if they're neutral, if it's time to go or if it's time to stay. So it can tell how hard the bottom is. I can tell if it's a soft bottom, sandy, silty, mucky type bottom, and I can tell if it's rock and it's a hard bottom. A lot of information there. Again, anywhere is in between. It's got a little. Let's show you this here. I don't know if you can see this. See the little LED lights in there? That little glow ring. All right. That's for some of the jigs that actually have blow powder built into them. You just drop your jig down in that for a few seconds. It'll charge it up, and then you can drop it down in the water, and now you got a jig that glows. So that's how you find the fish. That's how you see the fish. That's how you see your jig and gauge all that.
So where in Connecticut can you find sufficient ice to put all these skills to work?
I'm sorry, you broke up just a little bit in the very beginning of the question.
Where can you do the where in Connecticut could you ice fish?
Right now?
When it's colder, because it's been a little warm.
Well, if we have a good winter, you can fish most of the state. Obviously, along the shoreline and stuff, you'd have to have an extremely cold winter for some of those ponds and stuff like that down there. But there are backwaters, such as Weathersfield Cove, where you and I fish, John, that'll freeze up, and then the main river might be open, but those backwaters freeze. The places that I go to in Vermont and New Hampshire is the Connecticut River, and I'm fishing backwaters, setbacks, just like Weathersfield Cove. They're just up north 2 hours. So they've got better ice, obviously. But right now, northwest corner, obviously Torrington, where I live, is like a whole other world. And Winchester Lake is one of the first places to freeze, one of the last places to thaw. Park Pond, right now, people have been getting some really nice. I always hated that place because I never did well. But for some reason this year, everybody that I've seen fishing it has been getting some really nice fish, some big perch, some nice crappies, some big bass. So I gotta spend some time on that a little bit and reevaluate that situation. Burr Pond is another good place. We usually, I'm part of the CARE. I'm a CARE instructor, which is the Connecticut Aquatic Resources Education. And so we do like 2-hour classes for kids and families to teach them the basics of fishing, and then take them out on the water or on the ice, depending the time of year, and let them put their skills that they just learned in the classroom to the test and catch some fish. Generally in February, the beginning of February at Burr Pond, they have a big ice festival that draws upwards of almost 1,000 people usually. And unfortunately, again, this year, it was canceled. But what they've done with the classes is they're doing exactly what we're doing now. They're doing Zoom classes, so they don't have to put people in a classroom. And then we've got a bunch of dates in February all around the state, obviously ice dependent, where those people from those classes can come outside with us and, obviously social distance and all that stuff, but they can come out and enjoy a day of ice fishing and learn some of apply some of the things that they learned in the classroom. The Burr Pond event was really nice because there was a lot of different things for the kids to do. And unfortunately, again, hopefully next year things can get back to normal. But that's a really good program. It's none of your tax dollars go to it. Every penny comes out of fishing license purchases. So it's pretty much self-sufficient on the number of people that are buying licenses. And obviously with COVID, the one good thing, I guess, is all outdoor activities have skyrocketed. Fishing has increased, hunting has increased, boating, people are buying boats. I work at Brookfield Bay part-time, as Ron knows. Ron's known me at a couple of marinas, actually. But my boss said that he's been doing this for 45 years. He has never, ever, ever seen the sales the way they are this year. And I don't know where the hell everybody's getting the money, I guess because they're not going out to dinner or whatever they're doing, but they're out spending money on boats and campers and, four-wheelers and outdoor activities. So I guess if there's a silver lining to any of it, and I don't know how this applies to you guys as far as the fly fishing industry, if you've seen an increase in people wanting to, get into that. Take no offense, I don't want to pick up a fly rod because I know I'll probably like it, and then I'll be just like this with fly fishing, and more than likely divorced. But I've got enough stuff to keep me going with the open water fishing and with the ice fishing.
Any questions for Jinx?
Good.
What do you kind of look for in a lake before you go?
I'm looking for like multiple different situations as far as I don't want just a bowl, you know what I mean? I don't want to have just like steep banks and then there's deep water in the middle. I want to have some flats that are going to have, you know, some shallow flats that are going to have weeds and stuff on them, and that you know, like maybe a point that sticks out into the you know, into the main lake that's got weeds and stuff on it. Different intersections of, you know, contour lines, structure of any kind, really. In Connecticut, we have a lot of stone walls in the water because a lot of our ponds and stuff, or lakes and whatnot, are man-made. You know, like Candlewood has, you know, towns underneath there and bridges and, you know, old roadways and all sorts of neat stuff. Lake Lillonona has a lot of stone walls. You can see them. They come right down off the bank and right down into the water. You know, stuff like that. I'm looking for stuff that are going to hold the fish. And again, it is species specific, but they pretty much all like weeds, green weeds. So I'm looking for green weeds. I'm looking for, you know, the healthy stuff. Like I said, I've got an underwater camera. I'll drop that down and just take a quick look and see what's down there. But big green weed beds, and I would say points that stick out into deeper water. They have some rock on them, you know, mixture of rock and weeds and stuff like that would be what I'm looking for.
Structure.
Yep.
Structure and variety.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
So Mike, do you have an email address?
It's my name. It's Michael_Jasensky at hotmail.com.
Okay.
I've just started my business. I do have a web page and stuff. I'm not promoting it quite yet because I'm in the process of loading up the store. I have an actual store on the web page, and I've been loading that up the last 2 days. I've been spending a lot on that. I actually got a lot done the last 2 days. Trust me, I wanted to go fishing, but I had to bite, you know, just had to bite my tongue and spend some time. Once I get some more of this stuff, you know, inventoried and take pictures of it and load it up on the thing, then I'm gonna really advertise it. But the name of my company is Northeast Outdoors Fishing, and the website is northeastoutdoorsfishing.com, and the email is northeastoutdoorsfishing@hotmail.com. Kind of a long name, but I didn't want the fishing part in there. I just wanted it to be Northeast Outdoors, but it wasn't available, so I had to throw the fishing part in.
I will post that information once that's up and running, guys.
I mean, you guys can go take a peek at it right now. I just don't want a lot of people to go and look and not see a lot of stuff on there and then not go back. You know what I'm saying? When they go to that site, I want to have it loaded up. As you can see, I'm you know, there's some people that'll go out and they'll buy a mold and a gallon of you know, plastisol and a couple of colors and you know, shoot a couple of baits and call themselves a bait company. I wanted to do the exact opposite. I want to be 100% or at least close to it set up. And that way, you know, I don't get behind before I get started, first of all. And, you know, I've got a nice variety and something that people can, you know, can look at. But feel free to go look. The website it's live.
Is your brother helping you out?
No, actually. No.
He gave up on that, did he?
Yeah, they had to sell the business, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so he's on to other adventures.
Okay.
But we still fish and stuff. He does all saltwater stuff. I'm gonna get into doing that. I'm gonna get into doing some blackfish jigs and stuff like that. I've got a lot of ideas, a lot of places I want to go in my mind. I just need to get the basics of the store and stuff built up, and then I can, you know, then I can go from there.
I just shared the link in the chat function of Zoom.
Yeah, I see that. Thanks.
Yeah, but yeah, go ahead. Feel free to go take a peek at it and see what I did today. I got like 6 different baits up there, and different colors and all that neat stuff. So I'm making some progress. Again, COVID put me about 3 weeks behind. I wanted to be all set around January 1st, and then I was going to come down here and make a video, and which I still plan to do, and show all the stuff, and kind of make an announcement that way and say, all right, I'm ready to rock, and let's do it. So,
Hey, Mike, what you've shown us appears like when you fish on the ice, you're actively fishing. But my interpretation of ice fishing is with you have the pop-ups, and you just kind of put a live shiner on and wait.
yeah. So there's two different schools of thought here, and John has a tip up. I don't set tip ups because, again, I might drill anywhere from 100 to 300 holes in a day, and I might cover an area of 4 football fields. Essentially, it's like I'm in a boat, but I'm walking on the ice. And not everybody does that, but when you're jigging like I do, that's just what I do. Other guys like to set up, they'll set up a shelter, and they'll set up their tip ups, and they'll get the stove going, and they're cooking and drinking beer and having a good old time. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's a lot of fun. It's just I'm just a different style fishing is all. Much the same way that you guys like to fly fish, as opposed to like a rod and reel out in the boat or something like that. It's just two different styles.
It's 2 different things, and I have to. I like to combine the 2. I like to have tip ups to cover more water, but I can't just tip up fish because I'll go insane. So I will do jigging.
Yeah.
Always have a jigging rod going. Now, it looks like this. That's the reel, believe it or not. And then it's 3 pieces of wood that are going to unfold like this.
I thought that was an opium pipe you were showing at the beginning.
I was waiting for that too.
Well,
Yeah, that's off camera. That's off camera.
that might need it. So it'll sit in the hole like this with the reel submerged. It's got a leader like we do, fishing line, and then it's got a heavier cord. You'll hook a live bait to it, and a live bait will swim around. And now, of course, I grabbed the one in the dark that has the tore up flag, but it has this attachment, which is that would normally be a flag. They have them now that light up, etc. They have them that make noise, and it hooks here, and there's a little flange on the reel so that you've got your live bait swimming around underneath, and when something bites it and starts to go away, it activates the flag. And then you gently pull this out, and you wait. You grab this line, and when he starts to really run, you set the hook by pulling the heavier line, and then you hand over hand.
There's one step you missed out, John.
What's that?
That is, you run like crazy across the ice to the hole.
Well, you got
from many yards, from a long ways away, because the tip up, the flag that comes up is always the furthest step up away.
Yes, yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Always.
So,
Wherever you happen to be, it will be the furthest one.
there's always some.
You really need the creepers like Jinx had.
Yeah, those, I can't stress the importance of them enough. They, I really took a bad fall that day. Oof.
And as you're drilling holes, you're introducing water to the surface of the ice. You're basically a Zamboni out there yourself. So you're actually creating slipperier spots on the ice.
There's always someone who has to ask a dumb question, and it's me now. My question is, you know, because we are mostly fly fishermen, we do catch and release. Is this a meat fishing? So you're not putting them back, or you know, some of these the smaller hooks you were using, Mike, and showing, you think you could release them if you so desired?
I release 99.9% of the fish I catch. And if I do harvest fish, I absolutely practice selective harvest. And I keep the smaller fish and I let the bigger fish go.
Hey, I release probably 99% as well when I do get out ice fishing. If there's one I don't think will make it, I might keep that one. It is tougher to catch and release with the tip-up style because you're using live bait and they're more apt to swallow that. And that may make release a little tougher, but you can do catch and release very easily.
And for the ones you keep, for the fish you keep, what's your favorite eating fish? What do you?
Any of the panfish. They're all pretty much the same. The crappies, the perch, the bluegills. They're all very good, and a lot of people can't tell the difference once they're cooked anyways. Perch, you can make poor man shrimp out of. You literally just take the fillets, put them in some boiling water until they turn white. Put them on a bed of ice, put them in the refrigerator, let them get cold, some cocktail sauce, and it's poor man shrimp. It's amazing. Otherwise, you can do like an egg batter, egg wash, and then dip them in your favorite breading. I like to use instant potato flakes and season them up, and that makes a nice light, crispy, crunchy coating. Obviously, people use breadcrumbs and whatnot, but yeah, I mean,
we'll bring you in for our catering maybe at the next.
There you go. So we used to do at the at that ice festival at Burr Pond, we would do a fish fry, and my job prior to was to go out and get about 100, 150 fish for the fry, and what we would do is freeze them whole, and then a couple of days before the event, I'd get them out so that they would thaw out a little bit, and then we had 5 guys that would sit at a table and show everybody how to clean the fish, how to prepare the fish, and then everybody got to eat the fish. So that was always a hit. That was one of the most favorite things of everybody that came to that event. And it was very educational, and a lot of people learned a lot of stuff, and it was a lot of fun.
Was it bluegill that you told me a guy wouldn't eat, and you cooked a bunch of it up?
So a very quick story.
Wethersfield Cove.
Yeah, up on the St. Lawrence, I worked in a marina. Big surprise there. Right next door was a bar, restaurant, right on the water that some friends of mine owned. And I was there one day after work, and it was a Saturday, so we only worked half a day. And we started talking with the bartender, and he said he loved perch fillets, but he says, bluegills, he says, they're bony. I smash them on the rocks and kill them, every one I catch. I says, well, you should really try and, eat them because they're very good eating. He said, nope, I'd never eat one in my life. So I looked at the guy sitting next to me. I said, you want to go fishing? He says, we're going to go catch some perch. I said, nope, we're going to go catch some bluegills. So we went out and filled a 5-gallon bucket about 3/4 of the way. I threw all the perch back. I threw all the crappies back. I kept all the bluegills. I cleaned them up. I took them to the back door of the restaurant at the bar. I gave them to my buddy. I says, cook these up and put them out in the bar. I went back out, and they brought like 3 big heaping plates of fillets and put them out at the bar. And I told the bartender, I says, yeah, we went out and hammered the perch. And he ate every freaking last speck of it. And then I informed him that there was not one perch in the whole bunch. And he was amazed, absolutely amazed.
Yeah. Any other questions for Jinx?
No, this was excellent.
Good. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it.
When we can get together again, I think I want to have you come so we can actually see the stuff 3-dimensional and
Absolutely, anytime. You know that. I'm hoping Weathersfield Cove freezes up good so that we can get out there.
I would like to, and I'll reach out to you guys if I'm going out and see if we want to. So I know Ader likes the cold.
Mm-hmm.
I'll
Rose
join you.
gets under 50. Rosen's done.
Yeah,
I
just
bought
don't tell Ron. Yeah, don't tell Ron where we're going.
I bought some mechanical chemical heaters.
Oh, you know what? That is one thing I didn't. You know, this is a little heater that I use in my shack, and it does plenty. Yep.
Mine is for your hands and your feet.
Gotcha.
When we were on Weathersfield Cove that day, and there's a guy in a shanty, and they had caught a couple of nice pike. Remember the blood curdling scream? That guy come out, he said he had a pike like that, and he had dropped it.
Yeah.
And there's just this blood curdling scream comes out of his shanty about 30, 40 yards from us. So what in? And the guy's like comes out and he's going through all these gyrations on the ice like he's having a seizure because he lost this ginormous pike.
Just fell back down.
Yeah, it can be heartbreaking.
Yep,
It fell just down in the hole, huh?
they will do that.
Bad
yeah.
luck.
They will choose the path of least resistance. Let's say that.
Unlike muskies, pike never stop fighting. I mean, I've had them slip out of my hand and fall into the motor well of my low, and then you have to grab them by the tail. But they are one nasty, fantastic fighting fish.
And pike are actually very good to eat. There's a little bit of a trick to get the bones out of them.
Yeah.
But they're very, very good to eat. Pretty much anything is good to eat in the wintertime because the fish are, they're so cold that the meat is nice and firm. I don't usually eat a lot of fish in the summertime, but the wintertime is when, if I'm going to eat fish, that's when I do it.
The picture behind me is the view from the cottage I rent on Long Lake in the central Adirondacks. And I go up there for 2 to 4 weeks every June and fish for pike.
Oh, nice.
Pike Lake's 14 miles long. There's 3 groups of islands. It's right in the base of the High Peaks region, so it's got mountains. And just go pike fishing. Fantastic.
Excellent.
And fly fishing for pike as well in an area called Big Brook, where a brook comes in and it's a big shallow weedy plain that's about a half a mile long and a quarter of a mile deep. It's just loaded with pike, and the shallow water, just great for using a number 10 rod and just getting in there and throwing some fake mice.
It's got to be a lot of fun, which is why I don't do it, because I'd end up spending a ton of friggin' money on that, and I'm already spread thin as it is.
All right, guys, any other questions?
Nope.
Mike, thanks very much. Great to see you
Thank
again.
you.
Yes, yeah, it was
That was really good.
seeing all of you. Good seeing you, Ron.
I'll
John, I'll talk to you.
be in touch.
Absolutely.
And if you want to go fishing, I got a couple of boats. You sold me one of them.
I probably still have your number in my contacts, to be perfectly
Well,
honest with
please
you.
keep it.
Yep. Yeah, I'm sure I do.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
There's still a link on the website if anybody wants to. They're just starting the Taiwan on
Okay.
link hammers tonight. If anybody wants to shift over to that, the link's on the in the story on the website. It's just not on the main page. Just search. Actually, here, let me make it easy for everybody. In the chat window is the link if anybody wants to migrate over to Taiwan on. It's a buy tickets thing, but there's no charge. It's just how they're keeping track.
And who's tying tonight?
Mark Macbeth is tying clink hammers and drinking Bell's Two-Hearted IPA, which is actually very good. The label has trout on the in the picture, so it's quite
We,
good.
we had, we had Mark as a guest speaker, one of the two speakers at our chapter meeting last week.
Yeah, so
Great
that
presentation.
All right.
All right.
Jinx, thanks. I'll talk to you later, guys. I'm going to close this one down. Everybody, if anybody has the link.
Okay. Thanks a lot, John.
All right.
Thanks.
Take care.
Guys.
Bye, guys.
I'll
Bye,
send
Mike.
you the tape.
Oh,